Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
Well, hello there and welcome to this week's RTEGAA Football Podcast. So much to get through over the next little while with provincial finals in full swing. 2 last weekend and 2 more to look forward to this weekend. The Tailteann Cup is also underway as well, and the All-Ireland Series coming up very quickly as well. Brian Fenton is in studio with us. Brian, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Carl. Thanks.
Good to have you back. You made your TV debut at the weekend.
Yeah, made the big jump. Yeah, I had to stag Lee Keegan early doors, and I don't think that went well with half the country. But yeah. So yeah, lesson learned in that one. But,
well, you endeared yourself to the Roscommon and Galway supporters.
Yeah, they were lovely, I
final.
think. But I learned my lesson not to make any jokes on national TV. But yeah, a good day. I really enjoyed it, and cool to see behind the scenes as well.
Good man. And Enda McGinley is with us as well on the line. Enda, how are you?
I'm good, Cal. I'm good. Key rule for Brian there: you are damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. In terms of this particular gig, so.
People want personality, but not too much.
Absolutely. Be funny, but give analysis and be short and give more depth. And yeah. Absolutely. All in one go.
I'm learning quickly here, yeah.
Well, both of you down at the Connacht final, lads, and we might as well start there because I don't know about you, I was down there as well, and just the occasion for a start, Brian. Like, what did you make it? We ever had a Connacht final before?
No, I was never at a Connacht final before. I've played in the Hyde all right, and it's one of the most unique stadiums as a player because they put you into these kind of old traditional dressing rooms around the side of the stand, and both teams, so home or when we'd play Roscommon, for example, played Mayo there a couple of years ago, you're either side of a block wall ultimately, and you can hear more or less everything that's going on either side. There was 2 or 3 years ago, we played Mayo in one of the qualifying games. We got a late draw out of it. And at half time, I think Desi Farrell and Kevin McStay, the Mayo manager at the time, were having a shouting contest between the wall as who could shout the loudest. Honestly, it's a really unique stadium. Whereas in every other stadium in the country, you wouldn't see the team at half time, or you'd only see them on the pitch. So I'd played there, but no, had never attended a Connacht final. And geez, got caught up in the emotion, the energy, the hype. It was unbelievable down there, and just a pleasure to be a part of it.
Yeah, the town afterwards in Roscommon as well. Obviously, they got the late win. The game itself, Enda, what did you make of it from a Roscommon point of view? I have to say, very, very impressed. I was certainly watching it because I thought, I have to admit, when Comer crashed in that goal, I thought Galway probably had done enough, even though there was still, 9 minutes left at that stage.
Yeah, it was a brilliant sort of game to give an example of a team you felt almost coming of age right in front of you, in that it started off Galway well on top, and you were sort of thinking, oh, this could be dangerous. Yes, there's got the wind, and you were already in your head, you were starting to calculate, right, well, how close do Roscommon need to just stay in touch here? And next thing then they hit their straps, and actually they were the dominant team, and it completely flipped in the second, and you were thinking this game is heading completely Roscommon's way. Second half started off like that, and yet the scoreboard sort of struggled to sort of catch up with the impression I had certainly during the match, which was that Roscommon were well on top and were going to take this, and the clock sort of does its thing at that strange sort of, you think you're well into a half, and next thing it's only 50 minutes, so there's a long way to go, and this game can obviously change. And then of course Galway hit their time, and you thought, the story's going to be Roscommon. They got off to the rocky start, they showed great spirit, they really got their A game going, their pace game going, they had their great spell, but they're going to fall short. Experience is going to win out, particularly as you say, whenever Comer hit the goal, you sort of think, okay, well that's it, done and dusted. You just couldn't see Roscommon rallying themselves again. And that classically is where you see the teams in their development pathways. They sort of make bigger and better efforts, but they can always find ways to lose the big games until they develop that sheer experience to win games out. And Roscommon showed it in spades, the way they went about their business in the end. They never were phased. They just went back to basics, get the hands on the ball. The early decision of playing against the wind in the first half, you could see the benefit of that coming down the straight as well. They got their 2 pointers and went home. But so a phenomenal performance by Roscommon has really, really grabbed people's attention, and the way they went about their football, and just the emotion of the supporters afterwards. Like I got a hug in the stand, and I was commentating. Like so people were just so joyous. They just needed to celebrate it. So it was fantastic to see.
What did you make of Roscommon in terms of their performance, Brian?
Yeah, it was, as Enda said, it was a funny one. We were doing the live, say, not commentary, but pre-post and halftime, and we'd be complimenting Roscommon throughout the game, complimenting them and staying in the game and great scores. And Colm Cooper would turn around and say, "Hang on, lads, Galway are still winning here." Do you know? And it was a weird one because I think the emotion, we were all like fighting for or cheering on Roscommon in a weird way. But credit to them, I agree with Enda, as in they came in with an unbelievable performance against Mayo, and everyone was questioning, can they repeat it? There's all this history of the Hyde Park and their poor record there, and everyone was kind of questioning them, and I think they just answered it in spades. I think they went through that phase where Galway got on top, Galway got their purple patch. They responded really, really well to those setbacks, and as a Dublin player years ago, when I'd be looking at Roscommon coming through Connacht, I'd say they'll have a great performance through Connacht, and they won a few during those years. And I would never perceive them as a threat coming into the All-Ireland series. And that's just my own selfishness, my own naivety. But that's their challenge now, is to kind of push it on in the All-Ireland series. I think they can. Looking at them on form, they tick every box, as in Conor Carroll goals, their forward line. People maybe question their defenders, answered it in spades the last day as well. So I think they're in a really, really strong position. Now, again, Tyrone coming to the Hyde, I can see that being an unbelievable game as well. But I think Roscommon came and proved to the country that they're a top team and they're there to be reckoned with.
Yeah. Can I ask you, lads, go on ahead.
It's strange how sometimes teams need certain games to fall certain ways for you to develop or find out stuff about yourself. And you can't find it out until it actually happens in the heat of battle. Like if Galway had a wilted and not actually hit their really good level of football that they produced for periods during that second half, Roscommon could have won that game and everybody would be fine, but the underlying questions would still be there. A wee bit like how Down turned over Donegal. It was okay, that's brilliant, but it was clear that Donegal were off colour and Down were having one of those days that everything was going for them. But this game wasn't like that. Roscommon got hit by a really bumpy start, a really rough start. Then they got hit by a sucker punch and they looked as if they were running out of energy, and yet they still stayed true to themselves, kept the faith within themselves, and went on and won it. So it's amazing how, and you can't manufacture that. You can't talk about it in meetings. You can do all the stuff in the world, but until you get a game that just falls a certain way and the challenge is laid down, and as a group of players you come up with it, it's massive. But as Brian said, and I said it several weeks ago in the podcast in terms of when before Roscommon Mayo game, for Roscommon it's all about that big win against a top team in Croke Park. I think Roscommon, for me, have been a good team for many, many years, but just like Monaghan, you fully respect their ability as a team. You fully respect what they're doing as a squad, and you love to see it. But in terms of top line challengers, you have to take down a big gun in Croke Park, and that's Roscommon's job now. I
think it proved it to their players as well. As Enda says there, you need that big win, or you need those kind of consistent performances. You need a game to go that way to prove that we're about it for your supporters and your management, but also the belief in the players that we're not just talking the talk and listen to what Mark Dowd is saying and Jason Sherlock and how we're being coached. It's we did the business ourselves out on the pitch, so that makes your confidence as a player just explode. So I think they're in a really, really healthy position coming into at home against Tyrone, coming into the All-Ireland series. I think from a player's perspective, they'll be so full of confidence in their own ability to deal with setbacks, to manage tight games, to get the result, to grind out the result. Even if star performers aren't playing, their subs coming in, like you listen to Darragh Craig talking, they have a really strong panel. He got the call during the week that he wasn't starting, and for him to have the kind of maturity to sit on the bench and when he got his chance to take it, I think it was unbelievable. So, I think Roscommon have a lot to be proud of this week.
It was some kick, wasn't it? That 2-pointer that Craig kicked when he came on.
And he just missed one just before, a handy one off his right foot. So it was some score, like off the charts, yeah.
Lads, just on the kick-out thing, particularly in the first half, and Brian, you'd have a good insight into this from a midfielder's point of view and Enda as a coach. Roscommon got off 11, I think, of their 18 off short and retained them. Why did Galway try and press or did the press not work effectively, or was it just that Conor Carroll was very good in terms of picking out those players in those tight spots?
We couldn't believe what was happening in the first half, truthfully. Conor Carroll was just picking that kind of out to his left, box 2 or box 4, whichever one you want to pick. And Galway were pressing, absolutely. They had kind of that bank of 4 across the top, maybe 3. It would vary. They would have that kind of middle bank of big men that we talk about. So from Galway's point of view, their plan would have been force them long. We're backing ourselves as, people talk about Galway as these big men across the middle, big beasts, the likes of Cian Darcy, John Maher, all these lads. That force it out. If I was John Maher, if I was Cian Darcy, I'd be going mad in the first half. As in, how are they getting so many off short? Kick it out to the contest and we'll punch it back, we'll break it, we've worked on the breaking ball, whatever. It just didn't look like that at all. I think they brought in the new man Roach at the weekend and everything seemed to be going off to his pocket. That kind of out to Conor Carroll's left. I think they got 1-7 or 1-8 return from just kickouts to that pocket consistently. That happened for 5, 6, 7 kickouts in a row. And you're kind of looking at Galway to say, who's figuring this out? Where are my leaders on the pitch to figure this out? You can't wait for Pádraig Joyce on the line to say, okay, we'll push an extra body up there. If I was Galway, I'd be pushing 2 men into that box because obviously that's their favourite kick and let them force it along to the contest. I just couldn't figure out how Galway let it happen time and time again. And even Roscommon, it wasn't as if they had a load of numbers into that short kick-out box. They were living on the edge at times. There was a few where they, it was kind of borderline. Were they going to get it out? Were they not? But they always seemed to get it out. And that's where they got that kind of up that left side of the pitch in the first half is where certainly the 2 goals came from. And at half-time, you would think it would change. But then they were getting Conor Carroll's kickouts and his ability is unbelievable, getting kickouts out over the top. That long one down the Smith for their 3rd goal. It was just, they had all the answers. But if I was Galway, I'd be pulling my hair out on the opposition kick-out. How we didn't figure that out on the pitch, that they're just chipping short. We have to shut that down.
Yeah. Again, sometimes I couldn't believe it either, particularly the stats when they came up at half-time about that the second half of the first half, when the game swung from Galway's favour dramatically to Roscommon's favour, and the fact that Galway had the win, that section of the game was the winning of the game right there. If Roscommon hadn't have done the damage, and it wasn't just like against a strong wind under the modern rules to get, I think, 10 short kickouts away is just criminal. And then the fact that it suits their running game so well, so it was the double-edged sword. But I think it can catch you on the hop on the line whenever you've Galway were so good for the first 10-15 minutes, including on the Roscommon kickout. They'd won a couple that got scores off them. So you sort of think, okay, we're set up all right here. And you don't spot the wee leak as it starts to happen, or the wee chink as it starts to happen, and maybe a couple of boys just start to switch off. Like you look, Shane, I haven't contacted the RTE stats man last night because I want the analysis on the game or the clips on the game to go back through just each of the kickouts on repeat, because there's bound to be such learning in it. But the likes of Roach at corner forward, the likes of Shane Walsh, you'd be suspicious that Shane Walsh, just the nature of him, how switched on is he in terms of closing down the shorts of that there, was that a potential weak link out? But whatever it was, there as Brian says, the team and Galway, by God, Galway have enough experience on the pitch to figure out something and go. Let's gamble. What's the biggest gamble here? If we push a heavier overload onto this line, or even go on a tight man-to-man, like they were going the zonal banks, the 4, and then they'd probably 3 in the next one, and then 4 on out. But zonal and man-to-man, simple man-to-man, both of them work perfectly on paper. If you draw it out on paper and say, right, well, you've got that zone and you have to be lively and the arms have to be up and you have to be moving, and they would know the goalie's preferred side for the corner, which even watching the match, we sort of knew where Carroll's preferred side was on that particular day. So knowing all of those things, the zonal works fine until it doesn't. And he was picking out, he was being brave with the kickouts, able to get them away in the smallest of gaps. But then your choice is, do you stick with your zonal where he was being brave and had that pinpoint kick in between, or do you go in a tight man-to-man? If you go tight man-to-man and you do it aggressively enough, you're bound to be able to force a long ball. Of course, the man-to-man allows you to get pulled out of shape, but you're putting the question back to Roscommon for them to change up and bring something different. Do they recognise Galway's now man-to-man? Are we changing our shape to then create open space that we can get runners into? They stuck with the zonal, and I think the fact that 2 goals came back to back, like Roscommon, yes, they hit whatever 1-6, maybe 1-9 in that final quarter of the first half, but a lot of damage was done in 4 or 5 minutes. And so I think it came that the 2 goals were back-to-back scores. So I think they got hit that hard and that quick that only then were you realising, hang on a minute, what's going on? We were sitting in pole position there.
Just on the kickouts as well, like Coruscant on the Sunday game was calling for why didn't they go man-to-man, push up? And as a player, I loved when teams would go man-to-man on us because we were confident we get the ball every time. We would still get those short kickouts to the cornerback box, even now with the new rules passing outside the new D, because when teams go man-to-man on you, you can cluster, you can screen, you can kind of pull and drag a little bit more, and you will often get that runner who's fresh, you're one of your defenders or one of your back six into that box, and they'll still pick it up. The benefit for the defending team is that you are closer. There's probably a bit more aggression to it. You get kind of to the contest quicker, and you're asking more questions of Roscommon. So yes, they would still have won the short kick out, but Galway would have been in a higher squeeze and higher press for Roscommon to work it out a lot more difficult in that scenario. I think Conor Carroll, again, great credit to Roscommon. Their movement was subtle. It wasn't all like bunch and break and all explosive. It was lads would drift positions and then they'd maybe 5 or 10 meters max movement and they'd receive it. There were screens. There was men coming from the far side over the top. Unbelievable work. Probably the top team other than Armagh who are working on their kickouts. You can see their movements. You can see their plans. They've obviously great ball winners. The likes of the 2 goals coming from Enda Smith against Mayo and Galway the last day. So they've loads of variety, and I think teams will be looking to kind of replicate what they're doing at this stage in the championship.
Would that be one thing as well, that if Galway had looked at Roscommon against Mayo and a lot of their kickouts went long, particularly in that dominant period in the second half, maybe they were expecting that a small bit and they actually mixed it up. Variety is the word you use. That's the perfect word to describe it.
They would, yeah. Like analysing a team, you look at what are their trends, what are they doing, where are they kicking to, who are their key ball winners, the receivers, who's picking up a lot of the breaking ball or the short ball. Absolutely. So they're probably hedging their bets. We don't want to concede a goal early, so we'll sit back maybe 5-10 yards. But then again, live in game, when you're conceding short, you have to be adaptable. You have to push up and shut that down, and that comes from conversations and reps and being flexible and agile and from your leaders on the pitch.
And say you were there in the midfield the last day, Brian, from a midfielder's point of view, and you notice that Roscommon are getting those kickouts off short because your zonal isn't working, maybe that Enda referred to. Are you shouting at the fellas ahead of you, let's go man-to-man here? Or
yeah, like you would probably take a break and play and you say, hang on a second, let's figure this out. What the hell is going on up here? Let's maybe put an extra body into that box where he's kicking to. And since you can be a hybrid, like it doesn't all have to be zonal or man-to-man. You can go more zonal in that favourite box to deter him from kicking there. Or more man-to-man on the box. Lads can cheat off on the weak side where he's not kicking to, for example. So they'd be more hybrid or getting to the contest, getting to the breaking ball. But you'd be saying, hang on, they're getting it off short. Let's shut down the short. I'd be roaring, shut down the short. Let them kick it out long to us, get to the contest and see how we do on breaking ball. So that adaptability was just something lacking from Galway, I felt. Now they showed great character and why they're one of the top teams throughout the game in that second half. Their big leaders stood up. But again, even on their own kick out in the second half, I think they just mixed the brilliant with the really, really average. And that's, I think, something that they'll be very frustrated with.
Yeah, and that's why, like, as Brian was saying, and this is the nature of the championship, as soon as a team like Roscommon the next day, Tyrone will not or should not get caught for the short kickouts. So you were saying, Cathal, that against Mayo it was the long kickouts done damage, and so then and you get to see that, and that's where the championship you have to the top teams can shut down the best bits that the opposition has showed the day before. That's why Armagh seeing down tear Donegal apart down through the centre. Well, that wasn't going to happen the next day out. So you're then there is no point having a brilliant plan A in this game because it will be shut down the next day out. Roscommon have shown a great ability on long and a great ability on short. They have shown huge attacking potential in terms of their fast attacks. So, like, another option might be to actually give them a corner, to let them have it in a corner, and then you're sitting up and meeting it. That, if you do that correct, you can still get good pressure on them. You can slow down their attacks so that they don't get their A game, their running game up and going. the top teams then can change it up in game, and now Galway will be kicking themselves again. I would go back to this happened in a really short period of time in terms of this game really swung and Roscommon really gained mass momentum. But the fact that Galway didn't manage to just put a lid on that will be frustrating, because absolutely they would have looked at it. They played them in the 2025 semi-final. It was the midfield and Cian Darcy and long ball and fetching was what was the definitive difference in that game. So to get beat by Roscommon, particularly on those kickouts, will be something that'll hurt Joyce. But the test will be up again the next day out, because Galway beat Roscommon well on turnovers. So Roscommon didn't do great from that. So Roscommon looked much more reliant on that kick-out source ball, and that will immediately be, for a team like Tyrone, that's immediately their focus. And so Roscommon's next test is 2 weeks away.
Yeah. And they're still celebrating. I'd say, well, maybe not today. It's Wednesday today.
Hopefully.
But
I think there's a Tyrone credit card behind the bar in Roscommon somewhere.
Just the brave 2 or 3 that might have another pint today, but yeah, I'd say most have finished at this stage.
Yeah, the town was great after, and we're recording on Wednesday. Their under-20s are playing Kerry tonight in the All-Ireland semi-final. Their minors have won the Connacht title as well. Just the last thing on this Connacht final, both of you have played in teams that are riding a wave of momentum when you're winning all around you. How far can that take Roscommon?
They're riding the wave of momentum, absolutely, but yeah, I think there still is that question mark. They're now stepping into territory where, yes, they're there on merit, and we're talking them up, and they have proven to us that they have ticked almost every box across their team: strength and depth, kick out ability, forward scoring efficiency, defensive structure. They do it all. But again, it's that challenge of a big team coming into your patch now in a new competition, ultimately the All-Ireland series, coming to, the Connacht Championship is now done. You need to park it. If you look back on it, they'll still say, oh, well, we won Connacht, but we fell flat in the All-Ireland series. And that's the monkey that they have to get off their back. So yes, they're riding momentum, but it's still new to them now in this new group and new management and everything. So it'll be a big challenge.
And Reds have already passed their first test. Like there's nothing like producing an amazing performance, particularly again your rivals Mayo in the semi-final. And they got the back slapped off them coming in for the 2 weeks before the Connacht final, and that usually has a really dangerous thing of softening a team up, and all the hype about the minors and under-20s, and you've seen it in the sheer numbers of supporters coming in. So that team already had to show a quiet focus by itself. Now I think your management team, Mark Dowd, and that management team around them, I love the way that they're going about their business. Almost Jim Gavin-esque, just so and taking it in their stride. So they've already handled a huge momentum boost, and within that game, as we talked about earlier, they handled setbacks within game and it didn't rattle them. So they are going really, really well. Brian says the next test is absolutely a step up, but they have the belief. Their squad is getting stronger and stronger, but they still have that big game. But in terms of their personnel, as Brian was saying earlier, and the management setup, because I think the way they handled that Mayo win and how that looked and the reaction to it, and coming into the Connacht final, they done that really well. But obviously Croker's a different stage. And
you mentioned the Dublin element. We were down doing the interviews after, around the dressing room area you were talking about, and Jason Sherlock was up on the back wall taking a picture of all the Rossies out in the pitch. You probably could see his stamp over things. You mentioned that before about Roscommon.
Yeah, I was speaking about him 2 weeks ago. He's what a scoop for Mark Dowd to bring him in. You could see even everything they talk about, like sticking with the process, and that's all. Well, Jim Gavin learned it somewhere else, but it's all from kind of our days, and Jay would have been kind of fundamental and essential to all of that. So you can see his mark all over it. Yeah, but obviously Mark Dowd is a brilliant man for them to believe in as well. I watch his interviews. He's a son around the arm, and like I want to play for him. Do you know what I mean? He seems like a great fella, and I'd say he instills this sense of belief and humility in his players that you can tell. And even how Diarmuid Murtagh accepted the cup, all it kind of just very respectful, very humble. And that bodes well for them, I think, for later in the year.
There's a very recent cautionary tale, and that's the last great provincial sort of breakout winner that we had, which was just last year with Louth. And then they went into the Ireland series and it just fell apart for them. So they don't have to look too far for reminders that this, while brilliant, very, very quickly becomes as inconsequential as league wins and everyone else. Like at the end of the year, the provincial titles, while they are brilliant occasions and we all got to enjoy them, and please God we'll get 2 great ones this weekend, they are well down the pecking order in terms of what people fundamentally remember about that year.
Yeah, we'll get on to the two that are taking place this weekend in a little while. Just want to touch on the Munster final as well, Brian. You were analysing this in the Sunday game on Sunday. Kerry, comfortable enough winners in the end. What were your overall impressions of the match itself?
Yeah, not too memorable of a match, bar a couple of moments of excellence. I think big statements. Very disappointed in Cork, I have to say.
That seems to be the general consensus after.
I think so, and just watching it, like, you're coming to Killarney, you'd wonder what it is really. What you'd love to get into their dressing room or into their heads about what are their players thinking or feeling coming into Killarney. Like, Kerry have such a depleted squad. Before the game, Paul Gainey's out, so that's another big scorer off that they don't have to worry about. And you're kind of saying, again, everyone was saying this is the biggest chance they'll ever get, and that was the truth. So you're kind of, as a Cork player sitting on that bus coming to Killarney, you're kind of saying, we have to grab this by the horns here. We have to take this opportunity, and there just didn't seem to be fight. Kind of just a bit about them where they were kind of taking the game to Kerry, bit of grit, like kick-outs, all of those things that you look at, say Cork are on it today. They were just off it. Obviously, they got the great start. Supported with the wind. I thought a couple of their players, like Brian O'Driscoll, was really kind of took the fight to Kerry. But I was disappointed in their midfield, disappointed in their forwards in general. They just kind of limped out, and that would be the most disappointing thing from them. It does, everyone's, they promoted to Division 1. That's just their performance the last day pokes holes in all of that, would be my analysis on it. And from a Kerry point of view, really impressed with them, truthfully, with the people they had missing. I felt it was a big statement from David Clifford again to kind of step up and carry the weight of that, carry the team on his back. Paddy going off injured, it's his show, and he's going to carry the county with him. It was brilliant. And obviously with the draw being made, knowing Donegal were coming to town, a bit of a statement there as well. It's saying, no matter who we have on the pitch, we're going to have an 8 out of 10 performance, and we're ready for you coming down the line, no matter who's injured or who's playing or who's fit. So big statement from them. And look, people talk about the great day in Killarney and everything like that, but from a Cork point of view, you'd have to be leaving just so disappointed with the day.
And there was a big Cork crowd there as well, wasn't there, lads? I mean, there was great colour. It was like a Munster final of old, and you've been at them, Brian. But like, Cork didn't really, without, they started okay, but they didn't really lay a glove on them, particularly in that second half where Kerry were really dominant.
Yeah, it was disappointing for Cork. And again, Cork have been that team that have been on a journey for quite some time, and the consistency word has always been there. And it wasn't that they were terribly inconsistent the last day, or it was a terribly poor performance. It was just flat. It was just on a day that you wanted to see them at their sharpest or best or hungriest. We got to see a flatness, which it just seemed strange. The timing of it, as Brian said, like that was their time to just go and do it. But sometimes, again, if you know that a team is weakened, you sort of know that a win in some ways will be devalued, and there's nothing like it. And even going back to the Roscommon game, it adds to their win because Galway got Comer back on the pitch, got Walsh back in the pitch, and so that adds to that sense. We're taking on these boys at their best. For Cork, in the back of their minds, that thought process that these boys are weaker than ever. If we can't beat them now, then when? But at a deeper level, that also tells you, well, if we do beat them today, we're not going to get, we're not beating Kerry, and so it takes a wee bit of the the good out of winning it. You still wanted to see a spark and a life to them, but look, in terms of Kerry, seriously impressive. I think you're in a good place, and you probably Kerry are one of those squads a wee bit like Armagh as well, that when you're moving between, okay, they've got their top 4 or 5 players who are at a completely different level, but between, say, squad number 5 or 6 and squad number 26, you can literally put any of them in, and they're all exceptionally accomplished footballers. And so sometimes you think, God, they've all these players to come back. Players coming back in don't massively move the dial for Kerry because they're really good players, and you're replacing really good players with also really good players. So Kerry are phenomenally strong. Their bench is phenomenally strong. Their standout players are truly standout. And I just find the coming into the Donegal game is going to be fascinating because it's almost perfect for Jack O'Connor. He still will know that he's not going anywhere near his full hand when he's playing Donegal. So so he can go flat out at it, knowing that he's got plenty that's going to change for the bigger games if they get there later on in the year. Whereas for Jim McGuinness, does he go with that with his absolute fullest hand? A big win only gives Kerry loads of information. So it's a tricky one. I don't ever think you can go into a game half-hearted. But for Jim McGuinness, knowing that Kerry's only going to be at half-mast, essentially, in terms of the personnel they have on the pitch, it's just a strange one set up for Donegal, because a big Donegal win, it doesn't really injure Kerry that much, bar if they get a really unlucky draw. But it certainly shows a degree in Donegal's hand.
Yeah. What do we learn, Brian, on Kerry's setup? I know defensively you guys highlighted that they looked very solid, and they were in the second half in particular, albeit they had the wind at that stage.
Yeah, really solid defensively, and they kind of use the 45, kind of the new shooting arc, and the 45 as their base. You won't see them creep out too much from that, but they're really obviously they're man-on-man defenders inside, they're touch tight. The defenders around the arc are quite comfortable one-on-one. You've lads like they're half forwards, the likes of Micheál Burns, just real grafters, getting back, putting in tackles, turning the ball over, and again they have that ability to break. So I'd say in the first half they would have been disappointed maybe with Cork's 2-point shooters and the efforts that they were getting off, and you can just see in the second half they just swallowed them up. Now Cork had very little ideas, or they didn't really challenge Kerry too much defensively, but anything they did throw at them, Kerry just had an answer for. And again, a point well made about the new lads coming in, the likes of Evan Looney, who we haven't seen an awful lot about, had a great game. Armin Heinrich at wing back, a great game. Your average Kerry footballer is better than your average anywhere else. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying they're average, but your kind of panelist is at a higher level to most others, and that's the ability. So we talk about players who are missing, but Kerry boys and girls are born with a football in their hand. Do you know what I mean? And it's just that level that they can bring in and be consistent in their performance and their process. And this is how we play. Is just a credit to them, and they again a big statement from them the last day.
Yeah,
thankfully,
in good position.
Thankfully, they can only start 15.
yeah, that's for sure. And that big game coming up the weekend after next against Donegal. Let's get on to this weekend's finals then, lads. Dublin Westmeath, Brian, in the Leinster final.
Huge.
It's huge, yeah. John Heslin's back for Westmeath. Are you tempted to come back?
Hess is going back. I played in college with John Heslin, and he's been doing a bit of punditry and media stuff, and so have I. So
there you go.
Never know, the two old timers. When I saw that news yesterday, I texted Hess because I played in college with him in UC, so I'd have a good bit of crack with him, a good relationship with him, and I was like, am I to believe the hype here? And he naturally downplayed it. He was like, I was just kicking a few balls for the lads. So truthfully, I'd be very surprised if to see him, or to that would be a huge surprise, but I wouldn't write it off. Immediately the thing that jumps to mind with John Heslin is maybe they brought him in to replicate a Dublin player, for example. Maybe they brought him in because he's big and strong and powerful to replicate a potential Conor O'Callaghan or something like that, just something different. Obviously he's a massive leader, so he would affect the younger players in the group. So I'd love to know where the rumours came from, or what was pictured or said or seen. Do I see John Heslin taking to the field at the weekend? No, but it's an exciting, maybe not as exciting as the other provincial champion or finals that are on, but I could see Dublin came off the really strong semi-final win against Louth. A big statement, a strong performance, getting key lads back on the pitch and newer lads kind of stepping into the role, existing and leaders, putting a bit of a flex on things. So in a really strong position. And Westmeath coming in on the crest of a wave with loads of energy with Mark McHugh. And I do think they struggled a bit against Kildare. I watched that back during the week, and Kildare rightly could have won it as well, bar their shooting. So I think coming to Croke Park is a big challenge for them. Both their games have been in Tullamore. The crowd is very close to them. As Desi said here on the podcast, it's a great atmosphere. You can see the clips where the Westmeath players are turning to the crowd and getting them going, and the crowd are reacting, and you won't get that in Croke Park this weekend. The crowd will be much more spread out. They won't be down on top of you, so that you lose that kind of atmosphere and that edge, I think, a little bit. But if they kind of bring a bit of chaos and bring a bit of kind of magic and get maybe key scores at key times, I can see them putting a game to Dublin. But based on looking at two teams on paper objectively, I think Dublin should win comfortably.
Would you go along with that, Enda?
Yeah, it feels just that classic game that it's really up to Dublin how this game goes in terms of if they bring that. I think the Dublin template now is a quite ferocious level of intensity in the tackle, and then their old composed A game in terms of keeping ball, keeping out of contact, and just breaking down an opposition through simply not making mistakes or minimizing mistakes, minimizing going into contact, simple option, take the simple score, move on, next play. And that for me is Dublin to a T. The tackling bit that they got so well against Louth, and it almost was as if they were targeting the big players like Grimes and Mulroy, both early doors in the game, got turnovers and scores off them, so Dublin, if they can come with that there, and I think there's enough in this Leinster title. There's boys there that will have an awful lot of Leinster medals at home. I'm not sure they'll know where many of them are, but this one will just mean something for this group at this time, and I expect them to come out hungry. I expect them to put in a really good performance. Westmeath, the loss of Luke Loughlin is just massive. And they done really well to get past Kildare, but you're still that X factor that he brings, belief that he's bound to bring. I think that's partly why maybe Heslin is back in there too, that the boys can look around and see a really good score. They're a really wide spread of scores against Kildare. The 13 different scores, I counted it up. That's really, really good. 12 of them got one score from play, so that's great in one way, very difficult to shut down, but it means you don't have that real natural out and out score getter, which a few of them in a team at least certainly goes a long way to things,
Yeah, if you want to get up to that 20-25 point mark, you probably need a marquee forward as such, maybe, don't you, to contribute 8 or 10 points maybe every match. Part of me though, when I was trying to convince myself that Westmeath have a good chance this weekend, is they have a lot of pace, and Croke Park might suit them in that regard with Ray Cannellan. If Whitaker is fit, he's been really, really good. Wallace, these sort of players. From a kick-out point of view, and we touched on it in the Hyde Park the other day, how does it differ then in Croke Park, kick-outs-wise, Brian? Or is there a difference just given the stadium and the size of the pitch and stuff like that?
There is a difference. In your provincial stadiums, you're more likely to get a wind cutting down one end of the pitch. I think a Pearse Stadium in Galway, or maybe the likes of Tullamore, where it's a game of two halves, as they say, where it's a strong wind consistently. In Croke Park, it swirls a little bit more. You have the protection from the stands, so you're never saying, the wind is going to be a massive factor. Even days where we played in rain and storms and really strong winds, we never looked back on games to say, the wind was the defining factor there in kick-out. So I think they'll just be coming with a clean strategy to say, here's our kick-out plan, and it's kind of not linked to the wind or won't have an effect on it.
Okay. And in terms of the intensity that Dublin showed against Louth, can they build on that now? Can they keep it at that level? What will the message have been, do you think, in training over the last few weeks?
As Emma said, there was a tenacity to them against Louth, a point to prove against Louth. They were really hungry under the breaking ball, the tackling, key men. So, as Emma said, that has to be the blueprint, that has to be the template now. If, for whatever reason, they take Westmeath as a lesser challenge, I think they'll be flat as well, because Dublin have had inconsistent performances all year as well. So you have to be looking at that Louth game to say, here's the standard we set, here's the turnover count, here's our scoring efficiency. We have to hit that again. We are on an upward march here, no matter whatever the rest of the summer looks like. That has. I agree. I think if Dublin, it's very much Dublin's to decide. If they come in flat and kind of not cocky, but just kind of to say that they'll take Westmeath for granted, I think they'll be punched in the jaw and find out quite quickly. And as you say, Westmeath have great pace, great leaders, great excitement about their team. They'll be ready for it. But the Leinster final thing, this is very new for Westmeath players. The parade, the hype, getting tickets sorted, everything around at the functions on a Sunday night, new clothes, that'll all be very, very new for the Westmeath players, and something Mark McHugh will embrace, but also play down, because they'll be going there to win, no doubt.
If Con is 50% fit, if he's 75% fit, would you be rushing him back in to try and play?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure, actually. At this stage, I probably would. I think Dublin need consistency. They need their kind of starting 15 or their first 18 or first 20 on the pitch. You saw them getting lads back like Theo Clancy against Louth, and how strong he was on the pitch. I think if Con's fit, he starts, absolutely. And I think, like, before the game, he was out and about warming up with before the Louth game, and is he going to play? Is he going to tog? Is he not? So he looked fresh. He was kind of bouncing around, probably codding us all to say that he was going to tog out. But I'd say the 2 weeks have given him just enough time, I hope, to get back. You might see him maybe for 15 or 20 minutes at the end if he's not fully fit. But I think we have to get Con and kind of get him in there and get the lads working off him, because we didn't see an awful lot of him in the league either. So I think Con is going to be important for the rest of the summer, so I'll be getting him in as much as.
Yeah, it's about building a style too, isn't it? Heading
Exactly.
towards the rest of the championship. But there is, lads, for Westmeath, you could look at it from their point of view. Yes, they have all the new stuff to deal with being in a provincial final, but also you could say that their main job this year is done in terms of securing Sam Maguire football, and they're in the All-Ireland series, and they've nothing to lose here. Like, could that work in their favour?
I think absolutely. I'd expect them under Mark McHugh to come. I don't think, I would hope it'll not weigh too heavily on them. It hasn't so far. There's a very Roscommon vibe about them too, if you know what I mean. They do play with, they play a really nice brand of football. They back themselves, they believe in themselves, and they obviously got the knockback of missing out narrowly on promotion. But since then they've really pushed on, and again they backed up that Meath win with a really grinding out performance against Kildare. So again, that says plenty about them too. The belief seems really strong in the camp. So while I'm saying it is about Dublin, I think Dublin have to give one of the flatter type of performances. That now look, we have seen it plenty of times from Dublin this year, so that's not a stretch to foresee how Dublin might be a wee bit off it here. But I think Westmeath will bring plenty of questions. As I say, I think they will bring good energy. They do have a penchant for goals. Now, Luke Loughlin is fairly central for that too, but you imagine just it's that classic underdog story where they need stuff to go their way and they need the opposition to be slightly off it. But in terms of the team believing in itself and looking forward to the occasion and not playing with a weight on their shoulders or a nervousness, I fully expect Westmeath to take those parts which are essential. If an underdog's going to pull off a win, they have to come with a degree of belief and a degree of bravado and a degree of disrespect. The favourites will always talk that they have to respect the opposition. Underdogs have to have a bit of healthy sort of just a disrespect of the opposition, so that they go at it. And I thought Roscommon epitomised that. The likes of Dara Heenahan epitomised that. Just didn't really care who he was taking on. He backed himself and went for it. And Westmeath have to do that, and they do have it in their locker, but it's still a big ask.
Yeah, you going along? You're going?
Sorry,
you're going to the match?
Oh yeah, I'm on radio, so
good man.
My friends would say I have a face for radio, but yeah, I think Westmeath are coming with a lot of excitement. I'm watching them. I think Dublin can get at them one-on-one. Westmeath do a lot of swapping on that defensive line, so I think Dublin can get at them there. Rosanna says they get goals at the right times. They ground out a victory against Kildare. It wasn't the prettiest. Crazier things have happened in these provincial championships. Do you know what I mean? So again, we've been treated to a lot of surprises and a lot of shock wins and losses. So yeah, it could just be another fairy tale in the provincial championship of this year. You know, maybe.
The other one then this weekend is Armagh Monaghan in the Ulster final. This is fascinating for loads of reasons. The Ulster final is always interesting, but Monaghan after the last game, Brian, like, what is it going to have been like in that camp? The manner in which they won that game against Derry, like, they must have to take, obviously it saps a lot of energy from you, but it also gives you energy because in the manner in which they won it.
Yeah, definitely. Probably comparable to Dublin, as in you're coming back off a disappointing league, both teams relegated, and you're kind of questioning yourself. Is this going to be an early year? You know, these kind of self-doubt creeps in, and then you have that one statement performance, Dublin against Louth, where okay, here's our new bar. And similarly, Monaghan against Derry, where they just a kind of a surprise win in many ways, and obviously the bits of magic at the end and kind of grounded out during extra time. And Derry will be kicking themselves as well, but it kind of resets your mind, it resets your year. There's an excitement in the group. There's kind of excitement in the county again. It's not all doom and gloom and misery. All of a sudden you're fresh and you're bouncing into training and things are going much better and you're hitting PBs and your tests and, you know, everything is really rosy for a while. So I think they'll have felt that. There'll be a huge excitement in the county again. Ulster final in Clonus, there'll be a huge crowd. Your traditional Monaghan football fan is back with a vengeance now, and they're going to be cheering their team on to see if they can bring it home. So absolutely huge kind of emotional expenditure in that game, but I think they'll be on a lovely bounce this week, and really looking forward to the weekend.
And is that bounce enough, assuming it's fair to say that Armagh maybe are starting from a higher place in terms of their form, and they've got that All-Ireland title in the bank? Is that enough to bridge the gap here to give Monaghan a really good chance of winning on Sunday?
I don't think so, truthfully. Again, you kind of fall to the level of your preparations. I think Armagh are operating at a higher level so far that we've seen. And Armagh are kind of just tested. Their players are really, really healthy. I was watching them again. They're so efficient. They're so strong. They're so powerful. They've loads of different offensive ideas, really strong defence, unbelievable goalkeepers. I think Armagh are operating at that higher level. So do I give it Monaghan a chance? Absolutely. But I do see Armagh winning it outright. What's
the Ulster view on this one, Enda?
Yeah, Armagh to eventually get the job done. They have been hunting the Ulster title for a prolonged period of time. Their tale of woe was quite remarkable. Like the three previous Ulster finals, all taxed their time. 2 on penalties, is it? Like, it's just phenomenal, and just somehow not getting over the line. And of course, famously winning an All-Ireland title before almost any of the squad had a provincial medal is a rare achievement that I would imagine most of them will fulfill that very rare career highlight of putting a provincial medal along with their All-Ireland medal this weekend. But Monaghan are a strange people. They love being they love being the underdog more than any other. We're all, I think, as Irish people, we love the old underdog. Well, Monaghan do it in spades, and this game is set up for them. The fact, as I've just said, Armagh, it's as if this is their destiny. This is them eventually getting over the line. Nothing possibly could go wrong now. Like that, it's almost, that's how it's been talked about. Like, surely they're going to get it done now. And there's Monaghan waiting. Like, their review of the Derry game must be one of the strangest reviews that a management team or a player group would do, because, oh my gosh, they were poor. For large parts of that game, it was criminal, some of the performances that was happening on Monaghan's side, and yet they done the Monaghan thing. They dug in when nobody expected it, and they found something. And going off their National League campaign, which was really, really difficult, and the amount of men they were missing, to have got the wins that they've got now, the manner that they've done, they will be buzzing. There will be a belief in there, and they have nothing to lose. And they're a dangerous side. Like, they have real quality defenders in the likes of the Wileys. They have superb attacking pace from half-back line. I would suggest that in midfield, they probably don't have established a midfield maybe as the other top teams. Up front, the likes of Bannigan and O'Hanlon, they have really good quality players, and the Rory Began, who is still this sort of cheat code in the modern game. So they have a lot about them, and they are Monaghan. So Kieran McGeeney will not sleep easy this week, just with this Monaghan factor. But I would fully agree, Armagh, I mean, they are stunning in terms of, you go through the players, everybody's talking about the players Kerry's missing. Armagh, say from last year, like the retirement of Soupy Campbell, Grugan is only very, very limited minutes, Rian O'Neill's away. Like that's sort of 3 of their main attacking players, and they haven't really replaced them with out-and-out attackers, but the rest of their game is so on point. They are so well drilled, they're so confident about what they're at. Athletically, they're in phenomenal shape, and they are just running over teams at the minute. So Monaghan have a hell of a challenge, but they do tend to love it. So I'm really hoping that they make a cracking game of it. I wouldn't rule out an absolutely stunning Monaghan win and more Armagh heartbreak, but in all likelihood, I'm expecting to see Armagh, maybe not with the same show that they put on against Down or Fermanagh, like they rattled up record score lines the last 2 times. Yeah. But I expect them to get the job done, and I think we'll all just know that they're a serious contender to the whole thing.
But what about this Armagh thing, lads, where there is a criticism level against them that maybe they leave teams in matches? You look at the Tyrone match, for example, and they've lost several very tight matches over the last 7 or 8 years, not least in the Ulster Championship. Is that a concern, or have they addressed that sufficiently, do you think?
Yeah, I think I was banging that drum around when I watched them against Tyrone, that it was everyone was writing off Tyrone, obviously, and speaking up Armagh, and it was still such a close contest. But having watched in the last few games, and maybe lesser opposition, granted, but the way they're playing now is really, really impressive. And my challenge, I think, looking at them now, I do think they get the job done, is sustaining that for the rest of the summer, keeping lads fit for the rest of the summer. Like Darmach, Mullen, all of these young lads who have come to it. I think Murnan is unbelievable. Duffy, like the old guard are mixing so well with their kind of newer, exciting players. I think they've just gone from strength to strength the last few years. I agree with you. I saw that against Tyrone, and even in the league when they were in very, very tight games, probably came down, even in Dublin, well down at half time. But I think they really have gone from strength to strength. I think they will be successful this weekend, and it's about keeping those lads fit and healthy and hungry for the rest of the summer. And I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with.
Like their running power. I know Donegal's running power was often talked about, but Armagh's is right up there with the best, possibly the best in the country.
You look at their players, like the profile that their players have are just lean, strong, fit, athletic, well able for the fight, so agile and mobile. People talk about their fisted points, and there's a point being made that they're almost running so fast they have to fist it over. They can't get it down to their boot. So that's the kind of position they're putting themselves in. The likes of Charlie Oak from wing back. All of these players just going from strength to strength this season. I think they're in a really, really healthy position.
Yeah. How do you hurt Armagh then? If you're Monaghan, Enda, how do you get at them?
That's what I was going to say. What I'd love to see Monaghan do, and I'm not convinced that it'll work, but just I'd love tactically to see how it pans out and let Monaghan pay the price if it doesn't. But if you almost give them the arc, if you let Armagh out there, they seem reluctant. If they don't start Ashton and O'Neill, they don't have a lot of natural long-range shooters. So if you give them the arc more than maybe what most teams are accustomed to doing now, and pack the centre so that you rob them of their game rob them of those cut and runs, so rather than maybe going absolute toe-to-toe, it wouldn't make for a good spectacle. But I would love to see if you cut off those gaps or make them run into such traffic that they don't get those fisted points off, then how they go about it. I think they would tend to slow. I think they would retain the ball for a prolonged period of time and work you to death, a wee bit like Donegal would. But I would love to see what their plan B is. We know that if you do that to Kerry, they do have the 2 pointers that are going to just kill you from distance. But Galway a wee bit likewise. But Armagh, just how would that look? And I think it's quite a safe thing for Monaghan to even try. So I'd imagine they'll have looked plenty at that there, and I'd imagine it'll be somewhere within their plan and game to try to really, really crowd out not so much the arc. Most teams now try to be really defensively aggressive within the entire 40-metre arc, and that the space within that. I think Monaghan can sit potentially a wee bit deeper and just see how that looks. With a couple of men identified that they don't want to have space on the arc.
So just to cover off that space, so Armagh don't have it to run into, essentially. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, essentially. Now part A of that, and the most basic part A of that, is do not give Armagh a turnover. Do not, because if they're running at you from deep, well then you can't get set up like that. So it is about trying to be really meticulous in terms of your own possession, getting it dead on the far side, and then trying to set up. Do they end up giving Armagh a kick out? Armagh's so good at retaining possession, but they are doing such damage at the minute running through teams that I think you have to, at the very least, try to shut that down.
Okay, so we're saying Armagh?
Yeah, unless that blueprint wins, but we're saying Armagh.
Okay, we'll look forward to that one on Sunday. Should be a really good occasion as well. The provincial finals have been great, actually, overall, haven't they? When you look at Connacht last week, okay, Munster maybe didn't deliver, but there's lots to get into around the Leinster final. Great excitement in Westmeath, and then Ulster's always brilliant.
Yeah, just the provincial championship as a whole. It just brings back to, we were all guilty of it last year, kind of, even when we were successful with Dublin, as in kind of let's get rid of the provincial championship. I know they're so passionate about it in Ulster. Munster is probably a foregone conclusion. What's to change there? But what the provincial championships have thrown up to us this year, the surprises, the shocks, the performances, key players coming out of nowhere, the likes of Darragh Heenan coming, one of the best players in the country now. So it's been unbelievably exciting. And it bodes well for the next round in the All-Ireland series as well. That kind of top 16 teams now, we can't wait for them to get at each other, and the way the new format is, if you lose, you can't lose again. And that's ultimately, I know Enda was talking about Donegal going down to Kerry. Will they? I think Donegal won't want to lose twice, for example, going down to Kerry. So it's unbelievably exciting. And I think Dublin are in a very strong position in Leinster. I think Armagh are in a very strong position in Ulster. But as we said earlier, the provincial championship is done then, and it's all bets are off for the All-Ireland series, and it's very exciting. Yeah,
it'll be really interesting to see how the All-Ireland series works out with those games on the horizon. Tailteann Cup action this weekend as well. Down play Leitrim, and we had plenty of action in the Tailteann Cup last weekend. Some big wins. Offaly beat Clare in Ennis. Tipperary went up to Sligo and won, and there was a crazy game between Carlow and Antrim. Antrim 6-17, Carlow 2-26. There was a goal in the 92nd minute and extra time there for Antrim to win that one, so plenty to pick through in the Tailteann Cup as well. But a big win for Offaly over Clare, who were looked at as one of the favourites maybe to win out there. But lads, we're just about out of time. Brian, thanks a million. Enjoyed the radio this weekend in Croke Park. And thank you as well. Just a reminder before we go, sportpodcast@rte.ie if you want to get in touch on email, and you can like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts as well. Enjoy the weekend's games, and we'll chat to you again on the RTE Football Podcast next Wednesday.
Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over.